The Super Mario Galaxy movie is here, and I have thoughts. But before we get to that, however, I should get into what I thought about the last Mario movie, seeing as I've never made a video about it. Sorry. I saw it back when it first released and rewatched it before Galaxy, and it's okay. It is incredibly basic, lacking a compelling narrative and rushing through its plot at a ridiculously quick pace, but it somehow manages to keep the entire experience flowing. It sticks to a basic structure, offering just enough of a character arc for Mario to feel like a journey, though a predictable one. Jack Black single-handedly steals the show with a Bowser that is equal parts menacing and musically hilarious, and while it is packed to the brim with small details only Mario fans will notice, it all fits naturally in the world building and keeps within the story's pace to show you said references. It has issues, the licensed pop songs are really jarring, Luigi barely gets any screen time, which for something called the Super Mario Brothers movie is kinda embarrassing, and like I said earlier, there's a noticeable lack of story that really hooks me. But I didn't mind it that much. It's very faithful to its source material, which is great given how the last Mario movie went down. It's more style over substance, and as a movie on its own, it's not that great when compared to other animated movies at the time, but it's fun junk food. As long as it's a lightweight, enjoyable experience that doesn't demand much from the viewer and keeps to its story consistently regardless of flaws, I can look past that. Now, on to the Galaxy movie. Actually, before we start, again, I should briefly mention that Super Mario Galaxy, the game, is my all-time favourite in the series. The sense of atmosphere and rich gameplay mechanics always reel me in every time I play it, the phenomenal orchestral soundtrack, and above all else, the sweet emotional narrative tied to Rosalina's backstory, which added a depth of storytelling never before seen in the franchise. It quickly made her one of my favourite Mario characters. I may or may not have a crush on her. And sure, its story isn't some masterful work of art like The Godfather, it's still the basic Bowser kidnaps Peach and Mario must save her ordeal, but for a Mario game almost 25 years later by then, it achieved a lot that I feel most other Mario games couldn't. Presentation. Galaxy 2 isn't as good in my opinion, but the first game is near and dear to my heart, so when I heard the next Mario movie was based on Galaxy, I was a little put off that we're going to Galaxy this quickly, but it left me pretty optimistic to see how they tackle what made Galaxy so special. It has Rosalina, the Lumas, and the concept of jumping between planets, and being a sequel to the first film, there's a new take they can give that's equally gripping. If we got all those in a movie, I thought we were in for something special. Before we get to that though, I want to talk about the positives, because I don't want to seem like a negative soul like you think I am, Nicholas. Firstly, the music. Not only do they greatly tone down the use of licensed songs like the first movie, but the score we get here is truly breathtaking. I wish it had more leitmotifs from Galaxy, but it's nonetheless an excellent effort by Brian Tyler and the music team. It looks amazing, which isn't saying that much since the first one already looked amazing, and the voice cast is getting better. Not to mention the new voice actors, while a little jarring at first, did reel me in a bit. Well, more so in the case of Benny Safdie and Donald Glover. Brie Larson I thought was fine from day one because she's actually played a lot of Mario games and Rosalina seemed to naturally fit into her role, but I was surprised by how much I grew to liking Safdie as Junior. He kinda sounds like a young Jack Black, which for this movie's universe fits really well. And to all the people saying Junior should have been voiced by the scumbag behind SML, please seek professional help. Wait, why wasn't that censored? And then there's Donald Glover as Yoshi. When I first heard the voice, it didn't really wow me at first, but as the film went on, I got used to it. It's their version of Yoshi, and Glover absolutely smashes it in his role. I especially liked when Yoshi ate that stupid dog from the first movie. Lastly, I was glad to see Luigi getting some much needed screen time, something he really lacked in the first film. He has some cute interactions with Mario, and Charlie Day continues to crush his performance. Those are where my positives start to end though, and this is where I'm gonna get into spoilers. So, let's start with how this movie is a cluttered mess! Oh my god, is this movie all over the place? Every second they introduce a new plot point that barely gets any attention because the movie is too busy speed running through it to give it any breathing room. Which, to be fair, was also an issue with the first film. Its pacing was breakneck and barely had any time to let things breathe, but to give it credit, it actually had a plot. It wasn't anything special, but it had a basic story that went from point A to point B. Here, so much shit happens in so such a short time frame that barely any of it has time to breathe or fully develop. The basic plot is that Rosalina is captured by Bowser Jr., but he's also trying to get his father back. Peach and Toad venture off to save Rosalina, and I'm never gonna live that idea down. Cleve's bragging is gonna kill me. And this leaves Mario and Luigi in charge of the Mushroom Kingdom, but then the castle gets destroyed and they decide to go and find Peach anyway, so why separate them in the first place? The film has no idea where it wants to take its story, and as you'll see later in this video, the inconsistency is pretty evident. No better shown than what they did with Bowser. He's the only thing they attempted to give an arc where he's feeling guilty about how much of a deadbeat dad he was to Junior, but then he forms a friendship with Mario and the gang, even making a pretty big sacrifice towards the halfway point to help them get to the Gateway Galaxy. At first I thought they were going to go somewhere interesting with this arc where Bowser needs to decide between his son or his new friends, a compromise to place both maybe? But instead it tosses all that he went through out the window when Junior says friends aren't worth it, and he's immediately back to being villainous. So what was the point? Why bother giving Bowser a pathetic excuse of a character arc if you're not doing anything with it? Either make Bowser a maniacal baddie like in the first film, or stick to a more cohesive arc. The film tries to do both, but succeeds at neither. Mario also gets his own little subplot, because I guess they needed to give the main character something, where he has romantic feelings for Peach and wants to ask her out. But it barely has any time to flesh out, and the little moments we do get aren't enough. Although I am gonna use this as an opportunity to mock Nintendo for their whole Mario and Peach are just friends ordeal. Sure guys, that's as convincing as saying Star Fox will be in the movie. That is a joke, right? Fox McCloud is in this movie, which is an odd choice. As much as I love Star Fox, well, these three games anyway, why is he even here? I'll tell you why. Fan service. He doesn't contribute a whole lot to the story, doesn't have an arc, doesn't do a lot of action. He largely just seems to be there to make people point at the screen and go, oh my god, Star Fox! I remember Star Fox! I mean, I don't have a problem with how he's written, it's pretty surface level to be honest, but if it gets to a point where a non-Mario character has to appear when Mario isn't always renowned for crossovers, barring spin-offs, I ask myself, what the hell are we even doing anymore? Maybe this reveal could have been exciting if they didn't spoil it a week before the movie came out. Someone fire the marketing guys, please. And speaking of Fox, even worse than the first one, this movie is fully indulgent in constantly referencing all things Nintendo and Mario, just for people to scream their asses off and point at the screen. I saw a few reaction videos on Instagram of people doing that, and I, for one, am glad I didn't see this at the cinema. I had an annoying watermark on my screen, but at least I didn't have to deal with all that. From Star Fox being there, to Pikmin, to Rob, to a, no joke, 5-minute sequence of Mario and Luigi turning into babies for Yoshi to protect, all to serve as a Yoshi's Island reference, that serves nothing to the story and is forgotten about as quickly as it happens. Yeah, it's kind of insane. And I shit you not, by the time the movie got to the casino scene with Wart and the other Mario 2 baddies, I actually zoned out. Yes, really, the film is that obsessed with references and barely having a plot that I felt like my brain was rotting at that moment. Even the first movie wasn't this indulgent and kept to a basic plot that occasionally had references here and there, but nothing, I repeat, nothing infuriates me more in this movie than what they did to Rosalina. Beyond Galaxy being my favorite Mario game, Rosalina is one of my favorite characters, as I said earlier. And sure, she wasn't a complex person, and her presence throughout the game was fairly minimal, but it was her backstory that made her so interesting. It was quiet, it was emotional, it was gripping, it was something you wouldn't see in a Mario game. It gave her some added depth and really ties everything together with how the game works, seeing how she interacts with the Lumas and helping Mario on his journey. Again, it wasn't anything complex, but it helped to give Galaxy a unique identity, all of which is completely stripped away in the film. Rosalina is barely in this thing. She shows up at the beginning, has a few quick appearances throughout, and then shows up at the end. She only gets like 20 lines in the whole film and doesn't get to do anything interesting outside of her opening scene. She's reduced to a plot device that the main characters need to rescue, an issue they clearly didn't learn from the first movie with Luigi. But at least there we got to know Luigi before he was kidnapped. Here, Rosalina is kidnapped almost immediately, meaning we get no time to form an emotional attachment to her before that. Which is hard to say for someone who loves Rosalina, but general moviegoers are going to question that. All they had to do was give her 20 minutes of screen time before she got captured, and maybe that would have helped. At least that's what I would say if the idea of Rosalina being captured at all wasn't completely stupid. She's the goddess of the Mario world and she gets stuck in a cage for most of the movie. Oh yeah, we won't make Peach a damsel, but Rosalina? Throw her into the pit! Just compared to when the third Sonic movie introduced Shadow. We saw his backstory, he had plenty of time to flesh out as a character, and we got to empathize with that. And I'm sure you're probably wondering, does Rosalina have her backstory? The answer to that is yes! It's just not the same as it was in the game! No! Instead they established that Rosalina and Peach are actually sisters and got separated when they were little, which not only makes no sense in the grand scheme of things, like why didn't Rosalina just visit Peach after all this time, but it pales in comparison to her original backstory. It's not gripping, it's not emotional, it's not anything. It's a jarring change that's only there to give Peach personal stakes in rescuing Rosalina, but it barely has time to linger, so what was even the point? Just to give Peach more depth? Is that the goal here? Because frankly, I don't see anything interesting in her. When all she does is kick ass, never screw up, and has no flaws, that's not an interesting character to me. And to have that come at the cost of defining Rosalina in a movie based on her debut appearance deeply upsets me. And you wanna know the funny part? She has less screen time in this movie than fucking Fox does. How is it that Rosalina gets so little screen time, but we have to waste time with fucking baby shenanigans and having a non-Mario character overshadow her? Which leads me on to my last major point of criticism. Despite being called the Super Mario Galaxy movie, this is not a Galaxy movie. It has elements from Galaxy, like Rosalina, the Lumas, jumping between planets, and so on, but what it really feels like is the Super Mario Bros. Movie 2. Because being a sequel, that's what it's gonna feel like, more in line with how the first movie played out, which really stings because, again, this is Galaxy we're talking about. All they had to do was tell the story of Galaxy in a movie and keep the emotional depth of it intact. Like, what if it was instead about Bowser Jr. coming to take the castle away with Peach in it, leaving Mario and Luigi stranded out in space, until Rosalina and the Lumas rescue them and assist them in locating power stars to power up the Comet Observatory since Jr. also took them. That way, we can get more time with Rosalina, establish an atmosphere, and then can have the brothers venture off on their journey to save Peach. And you don't need to make Peach a worthless damsel who sits and does nothing. She could still form a plan to escape and get a cool action scene where she fights off Bowser's henchmen. Just make it concise. You can still cram it with references and Easter eggs all you want, but as long as you keep the story more focused and in line with the game it's based on, then we could have had a really fun and gripping Galaxy experience on the big screen. I'm not asking for a masterpiece or anything, I just want a Mario movie to tell a basic, simple story that's easy to follow and worth caring about. Having a movie directly based off a video game that actually had a plot and then this doesn't have one of its own is truly baffling to me. And don't give me the excuse that it's a Mario movie crammed with references so it shouldn't have a story. The Lego Movie and Spider-Verse movies are full of references too, but actually tell good stories that are worth coming back to. Or again, how about the Sonic movies? They take a lot from their games without even having the films named after them, and sure, they do change many things, but unlike this movie, the changes actually mean something. Above all, kids will grow up and appreciate them. I can even say that with the first movie. In the end, I really didn't like the Galaxy movie, as a general moviegoer and as a Mario fan. Even if I wanted to turn my brain off and enjoy the mindless junk food, I can't because again, I zoned out. If a movie is more interested in shoving references down your throat and jingling keys in front of you like a wanting toddler, then you've lost me. And speaking of which, I think it's hugely embarrassing that both sides of the critical landscape are at war with each other over this movie. I've seen critics make widely stupid reviews themselves, such as that one review that claims this is worse than AI. Whoever wrote that review, I really want to sit you down and have a mature chat. At the same time, I've also seen hundreds of rabid Mario fans harassing people for giving surface level critiques and just doing their fucking jobs, saying things like, oh, it's just a Mario movie, or it's just a kids movie. I can't begin to tell you how much I despise the it's just for kids argument. Whenever someone invokes an argument like that to stifle criticism of a film, they fundamentally misunderstand the point. Just because a piece of work is intended for a specific demographic does not excuse it from criticism. When critics are told to refrain from harsh judgments about a work simply because it's aimed at kids, it's largely because the harassers liked the movie and don't want people to say otherwise. And let's face it, this movie isn't just aimed at kids, it's also made for adult Nintendo fans. They make that very, very clear. The next time someone utters the phrase, it's just for kids, in an effort to silence criticism of movies like this, really think about what you're saying. You don't want children to have good quality entertainment to enjoy? How is it that when people praise something made for a younger audience, nobody bats an eye, but the second someone does it to your precious Mario movie, now you want a bitch? We shouldn't excuse poorly made films or shows just because they're made for kids, because remember, these are being made by adults, people that should know better, except for when they don't. Nobody is asking for a Godfather tier movie, they're asking for a better story. To me, it just sounds like these people hate it when something they love gets criticized and have to bring up a stupid argument that's already been proven false multiple times. Nobody's telling you to stop enjoying the Galaxy movie, so stop forcing others to see it the way you do. Look, at the end of the day, if you liked the Galaxy movie, then I'm glad you did. Keep enjoying it for as long as you want, but if you somehow try to justify harassing people for daring to criticize something regardless of its target audience, then I've got nothing for you. Stop devoting your life to this movie. It's not worth it. As for me, this is a one and done deal. It's not the worst thing I've seen, nor the worst thing Illumination has ever made, but for a sequel to a movie I enjoyed fine enough, it's an embarrassment. And ironically, it's only made me appreciate the first Mario movie a lot more. But who am I kidding? Nothing I say matters. It's still gonna make $1 billion because people are gullible, I guess. Although, now that Mario is on my mind, I think it's time we return to a series I've left behind.
You don't want to be like this. This is disgusting. This is awful in every way. If I could kill it, I would. But I legally can't. But I've considered it.